versus the Yankees.
Oh, man.
4 hits, 3 home runs, 4 RBI. What a guy. 49 fantasy points, and he cost you just $6,000.
Yeah. But Howie, look at Clayton Kershaw there, bottom of the screen. Let's zoom in on that.
I know.
So, 6 outs away from a perfect game. Second highest fantasy score last night on the slate. Nearly 46 DraftKings fantasy points. Who knows what that number would have been had Dave Roberts done the right thing and kept him in.
We'll never know.
No,
Never know.
We're going to do the right thing right now and bring in DraftKings contributor Garion Thorne and RotoWire's Erik Halterman.
Fellas, what'd you think about that last night? Kershaw getting pulled.
I mean, Kershaw was fine with it, so
No, God.
It's kind of just how it goes. Look,
Yeah, it's no fun as a fan, but every year fans seem to rediscover that pitchers are on pitch counts for their first start of the season. It was always going to happen.
No.
The sad thing is that it happens in April, not in June, when he probably would have gotten the chance to go deeper.
No, you're both wrong. It's actually sad that you're both wrong. But congratulations, Garion, on Vladdy doing some damage to the Yankees last night.
yeah, I stepped on my hand before this segment started, so I'm going to be really good.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah, that's right. Because the injury that we talked about earlier, how he was bloodied, in case you missed it, it was a runner, right? Or was it the first baseman's? Someone cleated his finger on accident?
He was trying to field an errant throw at first. He put his hand down and Aaron Hicks stepped on it. Not Aaron Hicks' fault or anything, but yeah, it was real bloody.
Yeah, it certainly was. And that's when he hit all the home runs. It didn't even stop him at all. He is the highest priced hitter tonight. But let's start with favorite pitcher. Let's start with favorite pitcher, Garion, over $8,000.
It's the chalk answer, but I think you just have to roll with Walker Buehler tonight. He threw 78 pitches in his first start, so I'm sure his he can at least get to 90. This is his second start, unlike Kershaw, so no worries about that. This is just a fantastic matchup against the Reds, who really, after opening day, sort of that mini explosion they had against Max Fried, they have just not been able to hit. And specifically, they have not been able to hit right-handed pitching. They have a 57 WRC plus, small sample, yada, yada, yada. We're 1 week into the season. They have not hit right-handed pitching, and they have struck out more than any other team in baseball against right-handed pitching. 31.1% strikeout rate as a team within the split. I think if you've got Buehler around 90, 95, 100 pitches, which I think is justifiable given this is, again, his second start of the season, I think we're looking at 7, 8, 9 strikeouts from Buehler and probably 6, 7 innings of really quality baseball.
Yeah, and you just so happened to write up Mr. Buehler in your article on DK Nation. Baseball picks, predictions to consider on DraftKings Sportsbook for April 14th. Okay, Erik, let's talk some DFS, though. Favorite pitcher north of 8K?
Yeah, I don't know if you have to go in this range today because there are a couple guys just south of 8K that I do like, guys like Shohei Ohtani and Joe Musgrove. If you are paying up, I think I am with Garion in that I'd go all the way up for Buehler. The matchup's just too good given what's left with the Reds. They just have not been hitting, as Garion mentioned. Although if you want to stay off of Buehler because you're a little bit worried that his velocity was down about 1.4 miles per hour in his opening start, probably just a first start of the year coming off a short spring thing. But if you're worried about that, I think Charlie Morton is a defensible pick at 9,300 against the Padres. It is a much tougher matchup, but the park's still pretty good. And Charlie Morton, he's still got it. He was still good in every way you wanted to see from him last year. Had a fine opening start as well. So I think Buehler's probably a bit better, but if you want to avoid those crowds, I don't think you're going very wrong by pivoting to Morton.
All right, let's move to your favorite pitcher who's under 8K, Erik.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot more options here.
Yeah, I did mention a couple just south of 8K, but I'm actually going to go all the way down to Dane Dunning at 6,400 versus the Angels. I think he's the cheapest viable option. There's 3 pitchers cheaper than him. 2 are pitching at Coors Field, and the other is just an opener. So if you want to really save cash, I think Dunning is actually completely fine. He's not exciting. Had 3 earned runs in 5 innings against the Jays in his season debut. 4.51 ERA last year, but the ERA estimators, some of them like FIP and XFIP, said he deserves something in the high 3s. His skill set is actually somewhat rare, despite being somewhat bland. 22.3% strikeout rate last year was almost league average, and he combined that with a 53.9% ground ball rate, which is quite strong. Only 3 pitchers made at least 20 starts last year. and beat both of those marks. That'd be Logan Webb, Luis Castillo, and Lance McCullers. So quite good company there. If you're even, an average-ish strikeout guy and you keep the ball on the ground as well as he does, that does make you a pretty good pitcher, even though you'd love to see a little bit more whiffs to really up his fantasy value.
All right, Garion, favorite pitcher under 8K.
Yeah, I think Dunning's a really solid play. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards Shohei Ohtani, justifiably so. This is someone who has a negative FIP right now. That's how good he was in his first start. Had a 39% called strike rate plus swinging strike rate in that outing against Houston as well. Like, he just deserves to be priced higher on this slate. It's almost a little disrespectful that he's not. I will say that if you want to pivot off of Ohtani, Luis Severino is kind of interesting tonight. I think that a lot of people are going to avoid him just because Ohtani is in that range, because Severino is going up against the Blue Jays, and he only pitched 3 innings in his first start, but showcased some big-time strikeout potential in that game, was throwing 98 miles per hour as a starter, which is really impressive. It's more than Severino, or we've seen from Severino at least, aside from his bullpen stints the last couple of seasons. And there's a pretty realistic chance that Teoscar Hernandez is not going to be in the lineup for the Jays today. He probably strained his oblique last night. So this is not a full-strength Blue Jays lineup. So I think as a pivot, Severino's a nice place to go.
Guys, we got like a minute and a half to go in this show. We're going to make it really quick. Garion, favorite hitter over $4,500?
I'm going to go with Frank Schwindel. It's a lot about Coors Field. Granted, he's $5,100, but this is someone who crushed left-handed pitching last season to the tune of a 177 WRC+. I think Schwindel breaks out tonight against Kyle Freeland.
Erik, favorite hitter over 45?
Yeah, I'll stick in that same lineup and go with Seiya Suzuki at 4,800. I think he's for real. He showed power, contact, and plate discipline in Japan. He's showing it all here, too. As many walks as strikeouts so far this season. 3 homers. He's 3rd in the league in barrel rate, so he's hitting the ball hard, hitting it often, and has a good idea of the strike zone. I'm excited to see what he does in his first game in Coors Field.
All right, so fast, under a minute. Favorite hitter under 3,500, Erik.
Let's just, again, keep hammering this Coors Fields game. Clint Frazier, 2,600. He is much more exciting in daily than season-long fantasy because his issue is durability, and all we need is him to be durable for one night. Hasn't done a ton this season because he hasn't started all that often. He seems like he's in a platoon role, but he did lead off in the only game the Cubs faced a lefty. So if he's there again at 2,600, I'd love a piece of him against Kyle Freeland and the Rockies.
All right, real quick, Garion.
Connor Joe, probably going to hit leadoff for the Rockies. Has done it all 3 times they faced a lefty this season. Great numbers against lefties last season. I just think he's way underpriced at 3,400.